Every NFL team has at least one question, one burning question to answer this season. Welcome, football fans, to another BLV NFL video. And in this video, I provide the one burning hot question for all 32 NFL teams. Gronk, spike the like button, and let's go. The question that your team needs to answer in 2025. Beginning in alphabetical order with the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals' burning question: can Kyler Murray be consistent? The Cardinals spent the money. They added big-time weapons to the defense. They added Nolan in the first round, Will Johnson in the second round, Josh Sweat, Calais Campbell, Dalvin Tomlinson. They ensured that the Cardinals can stop some teams in 2025. But in order for the Cardinals to actually be competitive and to make that jump back into the playoffs, Kyler Murray is going to have to live up to the contract, get off of Call of Duty, study the tape, and play consistent. The problem with Kyler is not that he can't play well. It's that he can't play consistent. The best of Kyler is MVP top 10 quality. But Kyler, I need you to be consistent. If that happens, the Cardinals, with their schedule, can be a playoff team in 2025. The Atlanta Falcons, burning question: is the pass game fixed? And this is a two-set question. Is Michael Penix the future of the Atlanta Falcons? Is he fixing the passing game offensively? Kirk Cousins briefly fixed it last year. Briefly. But ever since Matt Ryan retired, and really for a long time on defense, the Atlanta Falcons have been unable to stop the pass because they can't rush the quarterback. But Atlanta did a couple things this offseason. They drafted 2 edge rushers in the first round. And they also brought in Raheem Morris's best buddy, Leonard Floyd. So they ensured that they have the prospects and potentially the ability to rush the quarterback and affect the passer on the other side. But can the passer be effective on their side as well? So can Michael Penix go out there and prove that he's the real deal? And can Atlanta be more than just a run-centric team on both sides of the ball? Because it feels like during the Arthur Smith era, last season, this team could take care of business physically, but they cannot take care of business through the air. So if that changes, the Falcons can win their division, be in the same conversation with Tampa Bay. But until that changes, they're going to still struggle because the NFL is a passing league. Next up, the Baltimore Ravens. Flaming hot question. Is this finally, let me say that again, finally the year? Last year, the Ravens were as talented as anybody. By the end of the year, they had arguably the best offense and best defense in the NFL. And what happens? They stroll into Buffalo, favored, and choke. Mark Andrews drops the ball. Lamar has multiple turnovers. Can Lamar elevate in the playoffs? I thought against the Bills, he had a decent to good performance. It wasn't epic. It wasn't bad. He did make his fair share of mistakes, but he also made his fair share of plays. It wasn't entirely on Lamar, But it also has been a team effort, a team collapse across the board, a coaching collapse these last few years. What was Todd Monken doing against the Chiefs? Running the ball like 6 times or whatever he was running the ball. So the Ravens have had one of the best teams in football since 2019. And outside of the years where Lamar has been injured, Lamar has been in the running to win MVP, and the Ravens have been favored to go to the Super Bowl, and yet they haven't gone. So is this finally the year? They have the personnel. I can't even nitpick it. It's about getting it done, period. Is this the year? Get it done. You got the Buffalo Bills. I could easily double down on that question with the Buffalo Bills. But I think the bigger question for Buffalo, which is independent here, is that Sean McDermott, Sir Sean McDermott, can your defense play in the playoffs? Paging Sean McDermott. We need you to show up in the playoffs if you're going to do something in 2025. If you're going to live up. Because honestly, if you don't get it done this year, you're gone, buddy. You're gone. Your seat is hot. So if Sean McDermott does not play defense, he's a defensive coach. If his defense doesn't show up with all the additions they've made, Joey Bosa, Maxwell Hairston, adding depth to the defensive line, Josh Allen has played his part. Josh Allen has done his thing. The offense has scored the points. But Sean McDermott has consistently not done his part. Do it. The Carolina Panthers. Their burning question, is Bryce worth it long term? Is Bryce Young the investment at the quarterback position long term? Right? Last year, he looked decent. He looked decent for the back half of the season. But he needs year 3 to be a breakout Bryce Young season. Because he has no excuses anymore. I don't even care if the team doesn't do that well, because let's say the defense still stinks. That's fine. But honestly, if you can't get it done with a top 10 offensive line, with a quarterback whisperer offensive play caller, with a really good running game, Chuba Hubbard, Rico Dowdle, the investments they've made at running back with Brooks and Etienne, T-Mac, a top 10 wide receiver pick, Adam Thielen, another first-round pick in Leggett at wide receiver. If you can't get it done with this unit, I know it's not the Eagles, right? I know it's not the Lions supporting cast, but it's good enough. If you're a first overall pick, if you are the future of the franchise, you have to do something with this team. You have to do something with this offense. So I'm not saying he won't. All I'm saying is that he needs to in order to justify a contract moving forward. Because this is the year for Bryce Young. The Chicago Bears. The Bears, flaming question. Can Ben Johnson unleash the generational Caleb Williams? And just like Bryce Young, Caleb Williams has no more excuses, fellas. No more. I know he's only played 1 year, and statistically on the surface, it wasn't a terrible season. If you dip a little deeper under the surface, ladies and gentlemen, you would have realized that Caleb Williams was an absolute jabroni last year. He was terrible. He couldn't throw the ball deep. He took way too many sacks, holds onto the ball, just absolutely looked delulu out there, running around in circles. Caleb Williams, can he be fixed by Ben Johnson's scheme, by Ben Johnson's play calling, by Ben Johnson's offensive expertise, and can he be fixed with a better offensive line in front of him, Joe Thuney, Jonah Jackson, Drew Dahlman, with some new weaponry, Luther Burden, Colston Loveland? Because if he doesn't, I mean, what else do you need? What else do you need, Caleb? You got your hand-picked Rome Odunze. You got DJ Moore. I mean, what else do you need, sir? So Caleb, if you do not play well this year, honestly, we're leaning bust over generational. That's where I'm at with the Chicago Bears. Next up, we have the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals, burning, hot question. Will the defense be any better? Like any better at all? Please. Can they be better? And did they do enough to fix it? They had the draft. It was very, very important that they hit on some players. And what do? They go out there and they draft the most boom-bust prospect in Shamar Stewart. We'll see how that works out. Could be excellent. He could be the next Jabril Peppers. Julius Peppers. That's even better. He could be the next Julius Peppers, right? But he could also be the next Vernon Golston. Who knows, man? Like, this guy could stink. Okay? So, did they do enough with that draft pick? Did they do enough? Did they reach on Knight in the second round? Is he going to help them out at linebacker? Did they even do anything to help the secondary because they maybe needed a corner or a safety? Can they still get that done in June, July, August with these veterans still hanging out there? Is TJ Slayton an improvement? Is Al Golden the right choice? Right? Is that new defensive coordinator switch going from Lou Anarumo to Golden the right move? We'll see, right? This is what will determine the Bengals' ceiling, their defense. If their defense is solid, I'm not saying special, I'm saying solid, they can be a contender. They can take this team from 9-8 back to the AFC Championship in a blink. If this defense found a couple pieces, like Slayton, Burks, Stewart, or even just an improved scheme. It's that simple. The Cleveland Browns, burning question. Will Gabriel or Sanders be the future at quarterback? If either one of these guys hit, and I would lean towards Gabriel over Sanders personally, if either one of these guys hit, then that means you have 2 first-round picks next year to build around these quarterbacks with already a well-established limited hole roster. If one of these guys is good this year, you might be a good team this year and have 2 first-round picks. But if neither of these guys are good, all of a sudden you're having to talk about who is our quarterback and when are we getting him? So we need to see if one of these guys can play. That's ultimately why I don't think Flacco or Pickett are going to stay on the field very long, because the long-term investment beyond Deshaun Watson, because he's not it, it's one of these guys or it's next year's draft, and they got to figure that out fast. The Dallas Cowboys, burning question. Do they have balance, enough balance to be a playoff team? The Cowboys, to me, are a fringe playoff team this year. And honestly, like, Dak, he's riding on this thing. Like, if Dak does not go back to the playoffs, all of a sudden we're starting to ask questions about Dak in Dallas, his future in Dallas. Does he deserve to be the quarterback of this team anymore? Should they move on from him? That's a question. But the question really that will answer it is, does he have enough balance to help him out on offense? Is their O-line good enough to open up holes for lackluster running backs? Are their running backs good enough to exploit the holes that they do get offensively? Is it going to be Jaden Blue as a rookie? Is it going to be old man Javonte or old man Miles Sanders? Who's going to be the ball carrier, and how well will they play, and how much can they complement Pickens, Lamb, Ferguson, and Dak through the passing game? And then defensively, it's a similar issue. They have very good corners, very talented in the back end of their defense. They can cover. They can also rush the quarterback. You're talking about Micah Parsons. You're talking about Ezraku. You're talking about Dante Fowler, Adigizua. But their problem has been size and run defense. Can they stop the run? Can they run the ball? If they can't do either of those things, they won't be a playoff team in 2025. The Detroit Lions. The Lions' burning question is, how will Dan Campbell survive and evolve without Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn? That's the question. How will he control the vision of his team in 2025? What does this new offense look like? What does this new defense look like? Is it the same? Are there subtle tweaks? Is it entirely different? Is Jared Goff the same quarterback post Ben Johnson? How much influence does Dan Campbell have independently over the offense? How much is it really Dan Campbell running the show offensively? Defensively, do they play the same overly aggressive man coverage style? Do they blitz the same? Or are they going to be more of a zone-oriented team? Are they going to switch their colors, their stripes? So my question resides with Dan Campbell. You have a very talented roster. Your team is in its prime, at its peak, but you've lost your right and left-hand man. So you need to figure that out this year. The Denver Broncos. My burning question is, did they do enough to boost Bo in year 2? Is Bo Nix going to break out, or is he going to fall back down to earth? Remember, Bo Nix was not seen as a top-end prospect. He's a little bit of an older prospect, and people question him at the NFL level. When I watched him as a rookie, I clearly saw the talent. He can move. He's actually way more athletic than I gave him credit for when I scouted him. His arm is stronger than I thought it was. He's fairly accurate and decisive in the quick game, and his deep ball is underrated. That being said, I feel like in order for him to play better than last year, his play calling is going to have to be equally as efficient and tricky as it was when he was a rookie. I thought it took the league by storm, and I thought it confused a lot of opponents. I think Bo Nix, when exploited to be a drop-back pure passer, struggled a lot more, okay? And then, did they do enough to add weapons, right? Outside of Cortland Sutton, I still have a lot of questions about these wide receivers. Marvin Mims, I like in spades, right? Running back, I feel like, I don't know, I like Harvey, but I need to see it before I believe it. Evan Ingram, is he the joker for this offense that Sean Payton has been searching for? And then I look at the other wide receivers like Franklin, and now they add another from this draft class, a little slow. I don't know. I just don't know if they have enough for Bo to make that leap that Broncos fans are searching for and hoping for. He might just stay the same, or hopefully not get worse, which is concerning, right? I don't know if they did enough here. The Green Bay Packers. How good is Jordan Love really? How good is he truly? This year, they gave him a first-round talent at wide receiver in Matthew Golden. Now, Christian Watson likely will be out a good portion of the season, so that kind of hurts. But if Jordan Love is that dude, if he is truly the next great Packer quarterback, Bart Starr, Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, if he is that guy, he doesn't need all these receivers. He doesn't need a great defense. He should be able to roll out of bed and win 11 or 12 games. But Jordan Love had a really promising, I guess you could call it rookie season a couple of years ago. Even made some big splashes in the playoffs and late season magic. This past year, injured, up and down, inconsistent. Felt like just didn't play well in big games against good opponents. Can he bounce back from that facet? So, Jordan Love, spotty, inconsistent. Jordan Love, is he just mid, or is he better than that? Jordan Love is going to have to be the guy. Because if not, Green Bay is just not going to cut it in this difficult NFC North. Next up, the Houston Texans. Burning question is obviously, can they protect CJ Stroud? If they can't protect CJ Stroud, it's going to be another long season in Houston. It's going to be another season of, honestly, a disgruntled fan base, a disgruntled defense, and wasted potential offensively. If they can't protect this guy and they have not put the proper resources into this offensive line in order to do it, they're wasting their shine. They're wasting their opportunity to be a true contending team for a championship. Because I believe in every other aspect of this team and this roster. If they can't protect, it doesn't matter. So Nick Caserio, did you add enough? Did you do enough from a coaching perspective to make changes? And CJ Stroud, can he better deal with that pressure when he sees it? That's another question. That's the next element and of evolution of CJ Stroud. The Indianapolis Colts burning question. Can they get capable quarterback play? I'm not even asking Anthony Richardson to be a superstar. I'm not even asking him to be the next Josh Allen, where all of a sudden he turns into a super mega star in year 3 of his career. I'm not asking for that. I'm asking for Anthony Richardson to be capable and to complete passes. And if not, can Daniel Jones step in and run the show? Because if not, you're wasting a pretty darn good roster. As much as I hate on the Colts, I will admit that outside of quarterback, the team has a decent offensive line, a better than decent defensive line for sure, improvement in the secondary, a ton of weapons. I feel like they have the most weapons they've had in a long time. There are questions about Shane Steichen, but from what I've seen, I feel like he's done a good enough job to get this team to the playoffs to make something happen. But if they don't have formidable, capable quarterback play, you can't win. You can't win. So this season's all about determining quarterback, and the potential of this season will be determined by the quarterback play. Jacksonville. Can Travis Hunter really play both sides of the field? And if he does, can he fix Jacksonville? Because the Jags did put a lot of their hope and their aspirations and their future prospects into Travis Hunter. They traded their future first-round pick, if I'm not mistaken, in order to get this guy. And the potential, the promise, is that he's a superstar wide receiver and a stud defender. No matter if it's a perimeter corner or a nickel corner or a safety, Travis Hunter has promised he can play both sides. Can he actually do it at the NFL level? I haven't seen it in a long time in the NFL at a proper high level. At the same time, if he is that good, he could be the guy to change this team because they needed another weapon to complement Brian Thomas, and they needed a guy to help them in the secondary where they were atrocious. So Jacksonville, it's all about Travis Hunter dictating the future. The Kansas City Chiefs, did they fix their protection problems? Last time they lost a Super Bowl against Tampa Bay, they fixed their offensive line immediately. They went out there and they made it their main goal to spend as much as they had to draft as much as they had to fix the guys, the big boys in front of Patrick Mahomes. And that spawned a dynasty. It did. Now, another devastating defeat at the hands of a poor offensive line performance. Let's be fair. As bad as Mahomes was, the offensive line did not help. And they really didn't have a left tackle for the entire 2024 NFL season. Now Joe Thuney leaves. Did they answer those questions? Did they solve it with Moore from the 49ers, with Simmons from Ohio State in the first round? Do they have an answer at guard? Because if the Chiefs cannot block, they're not winning another bowl, period. It's that simple. The Los Angeles Chargers. The burning question. Did they do enough to contend? And can Herbert win in the playoffs? I think Herbert has enough ammunition now, a good enough offensive line, a good enough defense, a good enough coaching staff to not have excuses to win one playoff game. I'm not asking for 2. I'm not asking for 3. I'm not asking for a Super Bowl. My complimentary question about the Chargers is, do they have enough to actually win 2 or 3 games? I personally would lean towards no. But at this point, Herbert needs to win a damn playoff game. They choked the first one he was in, and the second one was an obliteration and an embarrassment against not a great Texans team. They were dominated, embarrassed. Now he has 2 new running backs. He has a new rookie receiver. He has an old friend in Mike Williams returning. He has Mekhi Becton in front of him. It's time, Herbert, to make it happen. And Jim Harbaugh, you're responsible. The Los Angeles Rams. Can they cover the contenders? We know they're going to score points. We know that Matthew Stafford in the clutch is going to sling rocks across the football field, dart after dart, dot after dot. You're going to see Puka Nacua with Devontae Adams. Unbelievable stuff. I can't wait for the offensive magic. I like their offensive line. I know they're going to run the ball well under Sean McVay's tutelage. But defensively, yeah, they can rush the quarterback. They should be better against the run. But if they can't cover, it doesn't matter. If they can't cover, even if they get to the Super Bowl, they're not beating Lamar, Josh, Pat. They're not beating those guys. If they can't cover, are you kidding? And then in the NFC, they might not even beat the Niners in their own division. They're going to struggle with the Lions. They're going to struggle with the Packers. They're going to struggle with the Cowboys. They're going to struggle with the Commanders. They're going to struggle with the Eagles. Every team they face in a contending position, if their secondary is not good enough, too slow, can't play man a single iota, if they can't cover, they can't contend. So that's the question for me. The Las Vegas Raiders. Can Pete Carroll change the culture and belief? I believe the Raiders are at a crossroads. And that crossroads will be determined by Pete Carroll's leadership. If Pete Carroll does enough to steer this team in a positive direction and give this organization the groundwork that it needs to return to the glory days, right? That's what the Raiders are looking for. They're not looking to win the Super Bowl. They're not even looking to make the playoffs. They'll probably finish last in their division. But if there are positive signs, positive progression as a team, as a culture, as a positivity around the fan base and the direction, and it's understood and it makes sense, that's going a long way for the Raiders because they have not had a lot of consistency. Can Pete Carroll bring that? The Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins. Is McDaniel's time in Miami over? That's the question for me. This might be the last season for Mike McDaniel. If he can't protect Tua and get the most out of Tua time, and he can't control the personality of Tyreek Hill, and he has to trade Jalen Ramsey, and he can't control this culture, and he can't have this team play physically more powerful, more edgy, better in cold weather. If Mike McDaniel is unable to solve the questions that have been there since he got there, he's going to be gone. As good as he is at drawing up a run scheme, a screen, a crazy RPO concept, or some sort of smoke and mirror for Tua, as good as he is as a play caller, as good as he is as a play designer, he's gone if he can't solve physicality, if he can't solve protection, if he can't solve the culture. He's gone. The Minnesota Vikings. Biggest question is obviously J.J. McCarthy. Is he better or worse than Sam Darnold? That ultimately will be the question for 2025. If he's better, the Vikings won 14 games last year. If he's better, the Vikings could be a Super Bowl team. They could be a contender. They could be a true NFC champion. Their defense is top 5. Their offense supporting cast is top 3. They have a great coaching staff. They can do it all. If JJ is a stud, they will be a studly team. If JJ is average or below Sam Darnold, he'll be good, maybe, but inconsistent, maybe a little bit worrisome in big moments, maybe making crucial mistakes. And that will not allow Minnesota to go very far in their own division, never mind the NFC. The New England Patriots. Is the offensive line good enough? Because every other element of the team, I'm convinced will be better than last year, or I'm convinced will be a lot better than last year. Drake May, the running back position with Travion Henderson. I know that Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper can produce at tight end. I feel like Diggs and Kyle Williams will provide the spark to the receiving core that they need. I know the defensive line is a heck of a lot better thanks to Milton Williams and Harold Landry. I think linebacker will improve. I think safety will improve. I think corner with Carlton Davis will be a lot better. And I do think that the coaching all the way around from McDaniels to Vrabel will inspire better production from everybody. But the offensive line is the area with the least solved answers. Is Will Campbell a real NFL tackle? Or is he more of a guard? Is Garrett Bradbury really the answer at center? Or will the rookie take over quickly? Is Michael Onwenu able to bounce back? Is Morgan Moses too old? Is Cole Strange an NFL player? I have so many strange questions about this offensive line. It's really the only unit I have questions about. The New Orleans Saints. Can Tyler Shuck save the Saints? If Derek Carr is out, they're going to have to find out what Tyler Shuck is. And even if they suck as a team in New Orleans, the Saints can find what Tyler Shuck is. And that could at least give them an opportunity to have a quarterback for the long term that they can build around. And that gives you something to aspire towards, a goal in mind, a team to construct, a map. If Tyler Shuck can play, the Saints are happy about this season. Nothing else really matters. The New York Giants. Can Jackson Dart save Brian Daboll? It's not about Russell Wilson. It's not about Jameis, as fun as he is. It's not about Abdul Carter. This year is about, can Daboll get enough out of Russell Wilson to maybe be competitive early on? And eventually, can Daboll do enough with this team to prove that Jackson Dart and him are the future? Is Jackson Dart convincing enough in the games that he does or does not play to allow Brian Daboll to stay alive for the season and beyond? Or is he just a sitting duck? That's my question. The New York Jets. Is Aaron Glenn the guy? I have my questions about Aaron Glenn as a head coach. I honestly had questions about him as a defensive coordinator. I highly question his behavior with Aaron Rodgers, his treatment of Aaron Rodgers. I also highly question whether or not he is the guy schematically, if he is the right side of the ball that you should hire at this point in the NFL. I have a lot of questions about this hire in general. So, is Aaron Glenn the guy? Because they clearly don't have a quarterback. No one is thinking Justin Fields is the long-term solution. But if Aaron Glenn can get this team and this defense to play competitively enough and to actually pull off upsets and to play close with a lot of good teams, that can prove that the culture will improve. That can, basically inspire us to understand that this guy could be the guy, that he can elevate talent. The Philadelphia Eagles. Biggest question, how much will Kellen Moore be missed? Remember, when the Eagles lost Shane Steichen, they lost themselves. Jalen Hurts lost his mind against the blitz, and they lost their culture. They lost their way of being, their way of doing, their way of moving the ball. They had no answer for a blitz. Kellen Moore is now gone to the Saints. New offensive coordinator plugging in. Can they continue their dominant running game with Saquon? Can they figure out a way to have that perfect balance between big play pass and run game? Or will they be too simple and too easy to solve against top teams? Kellen Moore made just enough curveballs and just enough decisions and tweaks to make them a Super Bowl champion. But there's a chance they miss him and they fall short this year. The Pittsburgh Steelers. My question is not about Aaron Rodgers, but is Mike Tomlin on the hot seat? The Steelers continue to pursue win now mode. They continue to try to go for it. And part of that is because of Cam Hayward and TJ Watt and the guys that are in their prime on their roster. And then they make counteractive, kind of confusing decisions like trading George Pickens. Is Mike Tomlin their guy long term? Is he the leader they believe in? Or is he the guy that hasn't won a playoff game since 2016? And is he the guy that they need to restart? They need to refresh. They need to just rip the cord out and start again with the Steelers. Tomlin has a chance to prove that this year. The San Francisco 49ers. Is the protection for Purdy good enough? Brock Purdy is going to get a lot of money. Whether you or I believe he should is a different question. But the question should really be, is the offensive line good enough to operate what is expected to be more of a drop-back passing offense? It makes sense. They moved on from Debo. They have Ricky Pearsall, Jawan Jennings, Brandon Ayuk, Christian McCaffrey out of the backfield, George Kittle. A drop-back Niner offense would be a lot of fun to watch. But is the offensive line good enough to protect Purdy in that situation consistently enough? If not, you're going to ruin your $50 million man, and you're not going to be able to consistently be the team that you want to be. Can Kyle Shanahan continue to get the most out of a limited offensive line supply? Or should they have invested more in that area than they did defensively this offseason? That's a question. The Seattle Seahawks question is kind of a two-parter. What will the Sam Kubiak offense look like, and is the offensive line good enough to execute it? The offensive line still has holes, specifically at guard. I like the tackles. Gray Zabel, is he center? Is he guard? I think he might be one of the guard spots, but regardless, the interior is still a problem. It's still very suspect. And we know that Sam Darnold is suspect under pressure. So if they can't protect him and they can't provide that pocket for Sam, they're in trouble. But at the same time, Kubiak does a good job of getting the most out of offensive lines and elevating offensive line talent and having a good productive running game that they can lean on and using play action to have extra blockers in. Sam Darnold was very good off play action in Minnesota, very good in a deep ball setting, very good in that regard. But are the Seahawks explosive enough at their weaponry at wide receiver? They lost DK Metcalf. They lost Tyler Lockett. They replaced them with slow Cooper Kupp and MVS. So Seattle, it's all about the offense. If they can find their rhythm offensively, this could be a playoff team because their defense could be darn good. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, can they stop the pass now? They signed Hassan Reddick to get that extra pass rush juice. They also addressed linebacker with more of a coverage man in Anthony Walker. They added 2 corners in the draft with Martin Emerson and Parrish. Are those enough secondary pieces to the secondary and to the defense for them to take that step in a positive direction against the pass? Because last year they couldn't stop a nosebleed defensively. They couldn't stop the leaks, the big plays. They got gashed consistently through the air, down the middle, down the sideline. It didn't matter. So Todd Bowles has got to figure that area out. I almost considered another offensive coordinator for Baker Mayfield as a question as well. But I think the bigger one for their ceiling is not that they can't score, because they should score with all their weapons. But can they stop teams? That was a problem when they lost against the Commanders. The Tennessee Titans. Is Callahan the coach for Cam? This year is not about Cam. It's not about Cam Ward being a superstar. It's about, do they have enough support around him and do they have the right coach? And we'll find that out relatively quickly. Does he put him in a position to succeed? Does he understand Cam Ward as a player? Does he understand what plays to call for him, what offense should look like with Cam Ward? Or are there better alternatives out there? Right? Because I don't think Callahan did anything last year that really made you wow, but he was hired for what he's done with other quarterbacks in his career, including Joe Burrow and even Jake Browning in Cincinnati. So that's why I have Callahan as the question for the Titans. And the final one for the Commanders is who is getting pressure? Who is sacking the quarterback? Who is making a strip sack, making that critical stop in a big moment where the Commanders need a stop? Because this is a contending team if they had a pass rush. I'm not sure if they really do. No Jonathan Allen. No Dante Fowler. Who's the guy you're counting on? Clelin Ferrell? Dorrance Armstrong? Dietrich Wise? Daron Payne? Who's the sack specialist? I don't see him. So someone needs to break out. Someone needs to succeed in a place that I don't see much. So those are the burning questions for every NFL team in 2025. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, Gronk, spike the like button. Don't be a jabroni. Subscribe. Thanks for watching. Peace.